Before we start the video, I want you to subscribe to the best Telegram channel at the first link in the description, where we show our earnings on cryptocurrencies, and not only, our capital that we manage is more than $3 million. Here you will find only the most useful. Thanks for subscribing. Also in the description is a links to verified exchangers, when you register on which, you get a welcome bonus from me. Let's get to the video. Friends, 2022 was the weakest economic year for China in 50 years, but if there is still hope for 2023 to be a good year for the bulls, it is with the Celestial Empire. Let's look into it. To understand the state of China as it enters 2023 and evaluate its potential, we should first look at last year's results. Two key points can be highlighted, and the first is that the economy grew by only 3% for the year. As I said before, this is the worst result in 50 years and far below the Communist Party's planned annual growth rate of 5%. All in all, there are clearly problems with the plans to overtake the USA and become the top one global economy, and the blame for this is largely due to the zero-tolerance policy of the coronavirus. Since the spring of 2020, China has set a course, at the instigation of the leader of the Chinese People and Party, Xi Jinping, that no one will get sick. As a result, entire cities and provinces were quarantined, which automatically put tens of 100 million people out of work for a time. It even reached the point of absurdity when, because of 100 people tested positive, out of whom only several have symptoms, a city with several 10 million inhabitants could be shut down for quarantine. Obviously, the economy suffered great losses because of this policy, and goods not produced and shipped out of Chinese ports became one of the drivers of global inflation. The year 2022 was a watershed year on this issue, because, last fall, mass protests against coronavirus restrictions began, and it came to pass, as is really uncharacteristic of China, that people even began to raise slogans about Xi Jinping himself resigning, even though he had been re-elected to a third 5-year term as party leader just a month earlier. Interestingly, after the coronavirus restrictions were lifted, there was a massive outbreak of disease across the country. This was to be expected. After all, while the whole world had time to get sick, in China, due to strict quarantines, no one was able to get natural antibodies to the virus, and their vaccine has a 50% chance of stopping the disease. That is, there's a 50-50 chance that you either get sick or you don't. But despite this, the authorities firmly believe in the new course that the economy is more important than sick citizens, and people themselves after the quarantine don't mind really getting sick. So there are no new protests about this. Besides, it was the fourth quarter of 2022, when China abruptly abandoned the COVID, that showed economic growth above the forecast, which also improved the whole year. The second key point is the Chinese authorities' policy of stimulating the economy. Last year uncovered a lot of problems, and earlier, we talked about them in detail. We're talking about the debt crisis, which affects banks. People can't get their money back, and its origins are in the collapse of the real estate market. Back in 2020, China's largest real estate developer was on the verge of bankruptcy, and this is not just one company's problem. The entire construction industry found itself in one big debt hole, pulling problems from the banks that lent to it, and also, the local Chinese authorities. For a long time the main source of income for them has been the sale of building permits. I'll show you a short clip now. It's a builder who is breaking the results of his work, so he's protesting that he's not getting paid, and the builder is not paying, because he can't sell anything. In turn, no one buys because there is no confidence in the industry, and so people no longer take loans from banks. And China's bonus problem: minus 850,000 populations in 1 year, for the first time since 1961. The authorities for a long time did not know how to feed the entire population of the country, so they artificially limited the birth rate. For the last year and more, they have completely changed the demographic policy and persuaded the Chinese to have more children. But, first, they are used to one child in the family, and second, the budget of the average Chinese family is calculated just for one child. Third, at least one generation has to change for the demographics to turn around. So, the Chinese are now actually an aging nation, with more retirees than able-bodied citizens. This is what the current situation in China looks like. Why then Morgan Stanley and other banks are already advising to buy Chinese stocks, which they think should soon overtake other markets. In the second part of this video, I will give you the reasons why China is called the last hope for the markets this year, and right now I will quickly remind you about our channel and Telegram, to which you can subscribe at the link immediately below the video and be updated on all the main events in the world of cryptocurrencies and modern finance. Without further ado, let's start with politics and the situation around Taiwan. At the end of last year there were a lot of fears about war between China and Taiwan and also about the participation of the USA Navy in this confrontation. On Taiwan's side, we were parsing that situation then, so you may remember that for Xi Jinping to be re-elected for another 5-year term, the economy in China was in decline, and so he bet that there were enemies all around and that it was urgent to take back Taiwan, including by military means. Now, the political aspect is gone for at least the next 3 years. Although the Chinese army is still conducting exercises near Taiwan, we can see the withdrawal of US warships from the region, and there have also begun to be summit meetings between the USA and the Chinese authorities. This is a steep warming of relations. It's already been suggested that the conflict is winding down, and in the future, China might get some easing in terms of economic restrictions by the US. The next point is the authorities' policy of stimulating the economy. This could have a bad effect on the yuan. Let me quickly explain that you can use the yuan as a reserve currency, but it is not an official currency because it is not really a freely convertible currency. Generally speaking, there are 2 exchange rates of the yuan, domestic and international, and yes, the Chinese have pulled a trick like that before, when they devalued the yuan to boost the economy. Now there is a high probability of this situation happening again, especially since the economy requires an additional acceleration after the lifting of the coronavirus restrictions, and the main positive just for Chinese equities is the government taking control of technology companies. Since February 2021, Chinese stocks have been going down, and it was not because of a bear market, but because the authorities were tightening the screws. As of today, China's once richest man, Jack Ma, was effectively kicked out of Ant Group's company. He, too, may have lost control of Alibaba. Moreover, the authorities have passed a law whereby they have so-called golden shares in every major company. In fact, they give a decisive vote at shareholder meetings. The authorities are now expected to give freedom to the stock market and stocks will turn around. As for cryptocurrencies, amid all these positive expectations, there are rumors that even restrictions on Bitcoin trading may be lifted. We know the whole history of China's ban on cryptocurrencies. It started with a ban on ICOs, then there was trading on exchanges, and in 2021 they introduced a ban on mining. On all of this news, the crypto market took a localized downturn, yet Chinese people are still allowed to own cryptocurrencies. The country remains one of the world's largest markets. Even hints that such rumors will come true could cause Bitcoin and altcoins to rise 20% or more in a matter of days. This is not financial advice, and I am personally skeptical about this news so far, but other reasons for the growth of the Chinese economy and the consequent positive effect on the financial markets are very possible. You can support the channel with a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Your Cryptanic.